Hi everyone, Jared here from 3 Sprockets. Just a quick video today to take you through some of the new ACK features in today's update. We've got a few to get through, so I'll just jump right into it. The first one is something we're calling the LogicSwitch. So you can find it in Entities and LogicSwitch, and I can place it on the ground like that, and you'll notice it looks a bit like the logic blocks that you're using right now. So LogicSwitches are designed to take input from our old logic system, which is the system you use when you hook up a switch or a pressure plate to a gate, and it's designed to translate that input into the new event system, which is what you use on triggers and events and stuff like that. So now that I've placed it, I can go back to props and interactive, and I'm going to hook it up like I would any other switch to gate. So I can click the switch, click add connection, and then click on the logic switch. So I'm going to do that to all three, and you'll notice it's drawing green lines between the switches and the logic switch. So we now draw lines instead of the faint transparent lines that we used to draw. It's just a bit easier to read, and we actually changed the color based on some conditions, which you'll see in a minute. So now that I've hooked up all the switches to the logic switch, I can click on the logic switch, and I've got some options. So I've got two events, on pass conditions and on failed conditions. And you'll see I've got three inputs, and they're all down here, three lever switches. So right now all the lines are green, and it requires on. And they all require on. So I can switch this and toggle it. And you'll notice it changes the color of the line when I toggle it from on to off. So what I want to do is make sure that when the player pulls two of these switches into the on position, it destroys this section of wall. So for that, I'm going to make the middle one stay off. So when the left switch and the right switch is in the on position, it will fire the on pass conditions event. When any of these switches are touched, it will fire one of these two events. If it passes the conditions, it'll do on pass conditions. Otherwise, it'll do on failed conditions. So I'm going to go to on pass conditions. I'm going to hook that up like I would any other event to break this section of wall. And that should be all I need to do. So if I go to playtest, pull the first lever, pull the second lever, and I'll pull the third lever, and nothing happens. That's good. I can put the third lever into the off position, and the second lever into the off position, still nothing. And if I pull the third lever, it passes the conditions, and the wall gets destroyed. So you can use this to make logic combinations into existing gates, which you haven't been able to do in the past, and you can also use that to hook the switches and pressure plates into our other event system, which is much more powerful and flexible. So that just about covers it for logic switches, and the next feature I'm going to show you is something we call the blocker. So I'm going to go to Entities and Blockers. So I've got this section of the level over here. It's jutting off my main section of the level, and I want to hide it. Normally, as I run around the level, we've got a fog of war system, so you'll see the borders of my screen are black, and as I move into the area, it reveals itself. And so just by walking up to this area, it revealed itself. I didn't have to do anything, and it was pretty obvious that it was there. So I want to hide it. I want to make it a bit less obvious that it's there. So I'm going to place a blocker, and you'll notice it looks a bit like a trigger, and that's deliberate. It functions almost the same way. I can resize it like I would a trigger, and these are you can actually make blockers considerably larger because they're designed to cover a large section of the world. I can change the height, but 2 is probably okay for me. And if I playtest it, you'll notice when I run up to the edge, it doesn't reveal the tiles. There are tiles there, but I can't see them. If I walk up to it, you'll see I'll just start to see it, and as I walk into the blocker, it reveals the area. So by default, when a player walks into, well, anytime a player walks into a blocker, it will reveal the area. So what I want to do now is make an NPC reveal the blocker. So like a lot of other things in our Adventure Construction Kit, you can hook events up to this. So I'm going to place an NPC down. I'm going to give him an unfinished dialogue. I'm going to hook it up to the blocker. So I can turn it on, I can turn it off, I can toggle it. I'm going to turn it off when I finish talking to the NPC, and I'll have to give him some dialogue. So once I talk to the NPC, that should reveal itself. And it reveals. So that's pretty cool. You can use blockers to hide sections of a level you don't want the player to see. It's handy for teleporter transitions. When you're transitioning between two areas and you want them to be separate, a lot of the time you need to make them quite far apart just so the player won't see them. So you could use blockers in between those areas to sort of wall off sections of your level. So the third and final pretty cool ACK feature we've got in this update is what we're calling a notification. So I can go to Entities again and Notification, and I can place it on the ground. So I've got a new little node here. It's a blue one with a bit of dialogue, like a paragraph in it, and I can click on it. And what a notification is, it's an on-screen pop-up that appears to everyone in the party. So you can give it some text, you can set its color. I want to make it red. I'm going to make it stay on the screen for 4 seconds. And I'll give it some dialogue. And I'm going to close it. So by default, that won't do anything. For the notifications to work, you have to hook it up to an event. So I'm going to go back to NPC, and when I reveal the blocker, I'm going to fire the notification. So let's give that a go. That, and you see I get a nice pop-up in the middle of the screen. The fog clears. So you'll want to change the timing of the notification depending on how much text you've got in there. It's got the standard text restrictions of other text inputs in our game, so 140 characters, no swear words or anything like that. And yeah, so you can use notifications like flavor text. You could say like you hear a rumbling in the deep and then some enemies appear if you wanted to. So we're pretty keen to see what you all do with these features, and they're shipping in today's update. Thanks for watching.